Stories stir the soul.
Stories reveal.
And stories heal.
In this podcast, we will give you an inside look at someone who's had a life-changing breakthrough.
Real people, real stories with real breakthroughs. As a health and wellness expert and coach, and Todd as a men's mentor,
we've seen firsthand what God can do when it comes to a breakthrough. So lean in, listen well. This could be your biggest breakthrough.
hello and welcome to Your Biggest Breakthrough. I'm Wendy Pett.
I'm Todd Isberner, and you know my wife Wendy really loves to shop.
I do, but I don't
But you're
very
not.
often.
But you don't abuse it. You're a good shopper, and you know what I especially love about you?
What?
I love it when you find 2-for-1 deals.
Oh, well, I love that too, actually.
Well, and you're going to love it today
fun.
because in today's episode, you're going to get a 2-for-1 story. About breakthroughs with money and with health and how they tie together.
Yes. It's going to be amazing. Actually, today you're going to hear from Krisstina Wise, and she is going to share with us a couple things. But one of them is you're going to understand that you probably fall into one of three buckets pertaining to money. One, meaning you can't make it. Two, you can't keep it or you overspend. Or three, you make a lot, have a lot, but you feel guilty spending it.
Yeah, there's some powerful wisdom in what she shares about that. So you're also going to understand how money affects your worthiness and your value.
Yes. And you're going to understand how it affects your health and how to ensure that your health isn't negatively affected by your relationship with money.
That's
right.
Yeah. And also, lastly, but most importantly, I think she's going to share with you the key to gaining the right perspective and maintaining the right health and wealth. And it's all as a result of surrender. I don't need to say a whole lot more because she'll expand on that.
Oh, yeah. So Krisstina Wise, she's a mom of two. She's an avid runner. And some would say that she's a reading and learning addict. And she has an obviously loud and frequent laugh.
But it's delightful.
Great. It is delightful. But she's a woman on a big mission, let me tell you. She is a real estate mogul, millionaire coach, and creator of several multi-million-dollar businesses, including Good Life Luxury, The Paperless Agent, and Wealthy. And that's wealthy as in money wealth, and then wealthy as in healthy wealthy, W-E-L-L, wealthy. She's an international speaker and author of the Amazon bestseller, Falling for Money, a romance novel for your bank account. And she has been named one of the 100 most influential real estate leaders in the country. She's been featured in USA Today, as well as by Apple, Contractually, and Evernote for her creative leadership with emerging technologies. Wow. Enjoy the show. Well, welcome to Your Biggest Breakthrough, Krisstina Wise. It's so awesome to have you on this podcast. You were on Visibly Fit. Now we're having you here on Your Biggest Breakthrough. This is so fun.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
And especially taking time out of your busy schedule, because you can be extraordinarily busy. Because if anybody...
She used to be.
Well, she still is, but it's in a very balanced and managed way. Yes. Because if someone Googles you, they're going to immediately conclude, oh, she's pretty successful, at least, based on, their definition of success, because you really did. You made it incredibly big in the real estate world. You were learning from the best and the brightest mentors, even like Gary Keller. Really? He mentored you and he kind of helped you along your career. And then you hit what might be called like the pivotal top of real estate. You were well known. You became an international speaker, an award-winning author of the Amazon bestseller, Falling for Money. You were named one of the 100 most influential real estate leaders in the country. Like that's
rocks.
Mind
Come
blower. And in your own words, you pretty much thought you made it. And then the unspeakable happened and you experienced this unpredictable, life-threatening illness.
Yeah. And then that was just the beginning stages of setting you up for some incredible breakthroughs in your health and your wealth. And so we're going to get the details of all of that in this podcast. But first, I want you to take us back to your roots. Let's talk about the beginning and get a little bit of an idea of who you are, where you came from, and just your beginnings in life.
Wow, all the way back there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, take us back. Come on.
Well, I like to tell a story that in the middle of, let's say, that epic success you were mentioning, my father would he would come to all my events. He was just super proud, and he came to everything. He and his wife came to everything that I did. And this was in Austin, Texas. And one time he's telling a story and a big group of people around. So I used to do a lot of events and networking and stuff as part of my business. And my dad was telling a story, and he said, yeah, my nickname was Cricket. Nobody knows that either. But
Where's
my
the
dad
cricket?
The cricket sound effect we need.
But he said, yeah, there's the crickets, right? And he said, yeah, Cricket, when we lived in that trailer home, that first trailer home, and he's going on and telling this whole story about our little bitty travel-sized trailer that we lived in for years. And we upgraded to a single wide, and we upgraded to double wide from that. But at that time, I was so ashamed and embarrassed of him telling that story. I mean, I was petrified and angry. And I didn't, I mean, probably if you looked at me, I was just changed colors even. And afterwards I said, Dad, you never, ever, ever tell anybody that again. I don't want anyone to ever know that I started a trailer home, because I was, again, so shamed and embarrassed. Mm-hmm. So now, in this part of the journey, it's like, it's just part of the story. And I think it's an important part of the story, because I just like to say it's, despite where we came from, and, there's alcoholism, there's abuse. It was that upbringing was pretty brutal, and just in a shady environment altogether. Lots of fights about this thing called money, by the way. So it's just that's where I began, was in a very teeny tiny small town. It was a one-stop sign town, not even a stoplight town, and started there. So, the reason why I love telling that story is for anybody listening, is really anything is possible. We can shape our futures. We can use our past. We can let go of identities or stories or things that no longer serve us, and really can architect and create the life that we want. And, it's not a straight linear up. It has lots of ups and downs and roller coasters to it. But at the end of the day, I think back sometimes, and I think it really is remarkable if I just sit down between me, myself, and I, and thank God, and think, be so grateful for all the miracles that have happened in this process also. But this is my life now. And this is what's possible in a lifetime.
It just kind of makes me sad for people who are classified in a certain category unfairly. And I'm talking about people who live in trailer parks, oftentimes are judged by others, as being less than. I mean, it just breaks my heart, because that's so untrue. That's such a nasty lie. And you growing up had to sort of process that whole thing a little bit later as you got older, like, oh my gosh, I grew up in a trailer home. And so, I commend you, and we credit God for bringing you to a place of freedom, no longer embarrassment or shame. And it sounds like it didn't happen because you became successful. It happened in spite of becoming successful.
Yeah, there's a lot of story in there. And what's interesting that I think so many of us can relate to, and you said the word, is the not good enough. And, so much, because I started in those beginnings, and growing up in that type of situation as a kid, I never fit in, because I was the kid on the other side of the tracks. And one of those kids, the trailer park kids, right? And so there is judgment, and kids know that. You're considered less than. You're judged. You don't fit in. And I was lucky, because I had sports and I had things that kept me motivated and focused, and because I was a pretty good athlete, maybe that kept me straight. But it's very easy then for kids to get into drugs, to get into things that I'd say a lot of my peers got into, because you feel that as a young age. But I was just maybe wired a certain way too. Like, I knew I wanted to get out. And from a young age, I learned, kind of part of the story, I started learning that if I could figure out ways to make money, because I wasn't going to get it from my parents. My parents were never around anyway at that time. But I figured if I could get this thing called money, then I could fit in. And I could fit in because I could then buy the Jordache jeans. I could buy
the Gloria Vanderbilt.
So you remember the Gloria Vanderbilt. That's right. And I could buy these things. And so the interesting thing about that is, once I was able to start buying things that caused others to judge me differently, then I started to fit in.
Well, so hold that thought real quick, because immediately I want to say, wow, the seduction of that lie, right? Because all of a sudden we're like, ooh, I'm accepted because I have this material stuff. And then you lose sight of who you really are. Yeah. And so I want to go back to you wanting to fit in, but what was kind of that trigger, so to speak, of what catapulted you to want to really make money? And what was that first thing that you did to earn money and see the Jordache jeans come to fruition and that kind of thing? What did you do?
Yeah, I mean, at first it was just trying to make money to be able to, when you're on the school lunch program, you're judged also. So somehow, like, I didn't want to be judged that way anymore. And this was just a little girl that was wanting to trying to figure out with, that age intellect. And, you don't know very much. You just can see what you can see or experience what you can experience. But I thought, if I can make enough money where I can make my own lunches or buy my own lunches, then maybe I won't be judged. I won't be made fun of by like, oh, she's on the school lunch program. So it's a little thing like that. So one little thing. And then I would notice like, oh, now that I can buy lunches, nobody calls me those names anymore. Oh, now that I can figure out how to buy a pair of jeans that's not high water jeans, they don't call me high water Christina anymore. There's just little bitty things. So just really starting to wire. So there was the good side and the not so good side that came out of that. The good side is that I think what that did as a young age is it caused me to want to make money. So I got very good at making money from a young age. And then I'd go door to door, I'd sell stuff. If I wanted to go to basketball camp, we'd sell candy bars, and I'd sell 10x the candy bars anybody else would sell with their parents trying to help them. They would pay for my basketball. So I just learned motivated. The reward, that reward system, like, oh, this works, that works. So I just got very money focused. And again, at that young age, the message I received, like you said, it's a big fat lie. But it was true at the moment that the more things I bought that had a certain label attached to it, the more that I fit in. So now let's fast forward to an adult. Still love making money, really good at it, can make a lot of money now, especially in real estate where I started, make more money than I ever thought was possible to make. But what is my story? Has my story changed? My story is exactly the same, that enough is never enough. There's never good enough. More is always better. I need to fit in with the next group and the next group and the next group up that echelon and that ladder.
Breaking the ceiling.
Keep breaking the ceiling. Deep inside, it was all like I had no internal personal reward system. Everything was based on how I felt others judged me. So I was just completely motivated by material, how I looked, the success, how many accolades I had. And that was a whole motivation, trying to prove out this, I'll be good enough when. And that was part of what took me to that place where it took me to my knees, because it was unsatisfiable. It was just constantly in search of trying to be more, because inside I didn't feel good enough. And I just keep going to get that kind of outside, heroin dose in a way, that outside approval to make me feel good about myself. And you can never feel good about yourself that way. And I didn't know that until I had my kind of whole collapse. And then that's what came, it's like, shit, I don't know if I love myself. I don't feel good enough. And just to final that story is that what exacerbated all that is when I was like in bed and I'd lost everything. And I didn't have my work anymore to be able to tell me that I was good enough. I was just there with me. And I'm depressed and I'm sad. And I just thought, I'm nobody if I'm not successful. And now I had to deal with that story of, what if nobody knows who I am anymore? And what if I can never speak on a stage ever again? And I don't think I'm going to come out of this. And so now this like human suffering, because I didn't know who I was. I don't know if I liked myself or not. I felt with a lot of regret of stuff that kind of people I hurt and maybe things I stepped on to even reach some of the level of success that I did, because everything was success focused. So I didn't even like aspects of myself. I realized I didn't even kind of agree. The whole thing was just, I just had to be there with myself and realize like, I don't feel like I'm anything if I'm not successful. And that's kind of where it started. That real internal work had to start. And, where we talked about before, I just had to let go and and, go to source
surrender.
Surrender.
Krisstina, right now you're talking to someone else that's high water so-and-so. They've got that same loop that's playing on in their mind, but they maybe have never even gotten to the success pinnacle, quote unquote, success with money pinnacle, but they're still carrying around that same story, which is keeping them from earning a healthy living and feeling and knowing who they really are. What would you say about that, or to that person that is still listening to that loop, and maybe they have a, they have a drive, they want to be different and better, but they don't know how to get off of that loop in order to even make healthy money?
Yes, well, it's, they're part of where money and good enough are very intertwined and connected with kind of this subconscious belief that if I made enough money or had enough money, again, subconsciously, or could make enough, that would make me worthy. So there's a worthiness that connected to how much money we make or how much money we have. So that's where the big fat lie is that they're totally separate. And so we have to take kind of money out of the equation first and not relate our worthiness around this thing called money, and just relate our worthiness around, I'm perfect because God made me perfect, and I'm here for a reason, and I love myself, and it's completely independent of money and how much money I make. My worthiness is not anything connected to my money. And so they have to be separated as the first step. Now, alongside that, say, take somebody like me that you think that money is going to complete the worthiness button. It doesn't. And then just more money you make, the more then it can turn to this ugly thing, because you do connect your worthiness to the money. And if you never feel worthy, you get really lopsided. And like I said, can get out of integrity, can get out of value systems, can make the wrong sacrifices, all for this thing, money, because that even though you have it, you think you'll feel more worthy, but you don't feel any more worthy. And more money can cause more problems if you haven't done the worthiness work.
So it's so subtle to try to recognize that this relationship that I have with money may not be very healthy, that there needs to be this separation between who I am and what money represents. And so I think it's really challenging for people to address that without some kind of catastrophe taking place, if you will, some chaotic circumstance that sort of just throws you off track, which is exactly what happened to you, correct? You had this unpredictable, life-threatening illness hit you, which really put you in a place where you could begin to evaluate things differently. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, and I think many of us listening have made a lot of money and maybe lost it all. In fact, most multimillionaires, so on and so forth, when I ask them, have you gone bankrupt at least once? They're like, yeah, at least once, So, so with the money thing, sometimes this causes losing it all, losing your health all the way, losing your money all the way. That is the wake up, like you said. And, it's like, God will always call our bluff, that we think we think we know it all. We think we're in charge. We think we have control until one little thing takes it all out and realize, like, I never had control, and I'm this human experience, and I'm kind of missing the why I'm here piece. Yeah. So anyway, with losing it all. Well, first of all, what I said is what I've noticed over time is, like, we're kind of in these three buckets with the work that I do, which is financial coaching and helping people really master their relationship with money and kind of their overall skill with money for a better life. But again, kind of in this context of worthiness, one bucket is those that just can't make enough money. And again, conflating the worthiness in it. So then it's like, hey, I'm just not good enough. I can't make enough money. People don't like me, or whatever the case is. So that's I can't make enough money connected to worthiness. And one of the solutions there, like I said, is that we want to break it from connecting our worthiness to money and separate the two. Like, I'm 100% worthy. I'm perfect. I'm lovable. We can write down all the characteristics and attributes about ourselves and make those things true, and spend time doing that. And then separate worthiness from value. Value that's the words, I think worthiness and value get confused. Value is different. Like value in the marketplace means, hey, my level of skill produces this much value in a marketplace, and the marketplace will pay me this amount for this value. So we can, over time, really work on different skills that maybe, bring on more money, so on and so forth. But the big takeaway there is to really separate worthiness from value and realize maybe I'm not making enough money because I don't offer enough value to command that type of money, but I'm 100% worthy. I'm 100% perfect, imperfectly perfect, or perfectly imperfect, however you want to say it, that type of thing. The second bucket, though, is the second bucket that I would have put myself in, means I was making a lot of money, but I couldn't keep the money. Why? Because deep inside, one, I was trying to spend all my money to buy that outward appearance, like we talked about. The more material things, the better, better I fit in, type of thing that I carried from childhood to adulthood, which just led to overspending and thinking you can buy your happiness, which you can't, because it goes away very fast, and you're buying the next thing and the next thing and trying to fit in with more expensive toys and more expensive everything. So that's that second bucket, where it's still a worthiness that you're making enough money now, but you don't feel worthy. So it just tends to evaporate and disappear one way or another. Like I had millions, and a few little mistakes I would make, and it's all gone. It's like, how do I keep doing this? It's because I hadn't fixed that yet. That whatever subconscious patterning I was in, I had to get rid of the money because I didn't feel worthy to have it. I was still stuck in that place. That's like that second bucket that many people find themselves in. And again, it's kind of worthiness work and understanding money and how much is enough, and that helps us fix that category. And then the third category are those that make a lot of money, have a lot of money, but feel guilty spending it. Because it's like, I'm not worth it to spend on. It keeps going down, like, I'm not worth it. I shouldn't spend this amount of money. That would be a very selfish thing to do, whatever that story is. But you can see that 3 buckets, but it's all worthiness. So when we're really wanting to tackle this thing called money and have money be more positive, fulfilling, meaningful, spiritual, good place where money's really, abundant, and we feel prosperous and it's working for us, one of the first places we have to work is, it doesn't matter which one of those buckets we're in. Like I said, we all have to fix that worthiness button.
So those 3 buckets, I wrote these down here because I'm fascinated by the 3. And obviously, I would think that you would have this other bucket that you're trying to get these 3 buckets to kind of go into, right? So what would be the end result of this ultimate bucket that you would want someone to experience?
Yeah, well, I call it the exercise. So there's 3 other buckets of money too. Those are kind of the categories that I see with the people I work in. They're coming in one of those 3 categories and saying, hey, I need to fix this. Money's not working for me one way or another. It's causing a lot of stress, anxiety, conflict, confusion, whatever. Now with the other 3 buckets of money, it's looking at, we need to, what I called lifestyle architecture. So part of that is we're kind of built in this culture that more is better. More success is better. More money is better. More toys are better. More is better. And we're culturally trained to kind of think that way in most cases.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I say is, like, the way to get out of this, kind of get out of these buckets, and the work that we do alongside, the worthiness work is kind of a separate thing. That's personal work. But when it comes to the financial piece, I advise people who want to start with something called how much money is enough. And it's a really good starting place as far as a very practical thing to start doing and thinking. And when we ask this question, it's how much money is enough to live a good life. And so it seems like a simple question, but when we just ask ourselves, I always challenge everybody, just go sit down, spend 30 minutes and see if you can come up with the answer to how much money is enough. And where it seems like it'd be an easy question to answer, everyone comes back and says, when I asked that one question, like 10 other questions came up. And it's like, yeah, that's usually the case. But how much money is enough is kind of equally philosophical as it is practical. And the philosophical piece is, what is a good life? So my good life is different than your good life. So where we're thinking of money, we're comparing how much money we make compared to how much money everybody else makes. And then this is kind of this comparison game, whether that's explicit or implicit. And we're just in this Joneses, that's what we mean, keep up by the Joneses. Everything is kind of this comparison, and we fit in based on the cars my neighbors are driving, the schools their kids are going to. We kind of go up this kind of hierarchy of groups of people, we kind of our peer groups. So with this, it's like, it's just personal work. It's like, no, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's like, pretend you're on an island and nobody got to judge you about what you drove or what car you lived in or what watch you wore or what bag you carried around, or just if it's just you and your family, and spend time really sketching out what is a good life in as much detail as possible. And it's really good work. And that's what I call the lifestyle architecture piece, is really architect what your good life is. And again, it's not easy. And you look in all the life categories, like your 4 categories, Todd, which is faith, fitness, family, and
finances.
Finance. I'm leaving out my piece, right?
Yeah, right.
The piece comes in, it's kind of later, but really look at what is a good life for my family, and what is a good life for my faith, and what I'm going to tithe and give away in my philanthropic piece, and anything to do faith related. And what is it when it comes to my health and my wellness, like all these things, and what type of house would make us happy. And if we could drive paid off cars, like what cars are good enough, because we need transport, right? And just do that work. So it's very philosophical. And, and more, I'd say this work's been around forever. So when people do vision boarding and that type of thing, that's a tactic to use to try to come up with what is a good life. But my problem with people doing vision boards in many cases is that they're trying to go vision board for the 3 houses around the world that are on the, on the beach or overlooking the ocean. And, maybe they have a private plane in there, and maybe they have, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the way I like to do it is for us to get to the place of, if life never got better than this, it would be more than good enough. Right? Do we have to have a jet to be happy? Most people don't. So that's the first piece. And the second piece is I'll complete here. Yeah. The second piece to that is then quantify it. How much does it cost to live that life?
It's good.
Just curious, because I just want to go back a little bit too, because that's such a key question for all of us to ask. And I have a feeling we really need to ask that several times throughout our lifetime, because things change throughout our lives. And I'm wondering, let's go back to when that unexpected illness hit you, because I'm guessing you were regurgitating a lot of the things that you're now teaching during that time of chaos and confusion and fear that you might not even live. So just take us back there for a second, because as I mentioned earlier, sometimes it takes something rather dramatic in our lives to stop us from the craziness in the direction that we're going and the unhealthy relationship we have with money. So can you just expand on that a little bit, and then what you were going through during that time?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about that story is that, like we talked about offline, is that I thought I made it, and I had made it as far as success goes. I was at a pivotal point in my career, thought I made it. And just the moment at the height of my career, I told myself, Christina, girlfriend, you started a trailer home and you made it.
Now you're buying them. No.
Now, it's like I had the industry in my hand. I was the person. I really was. And, in the ego there, granted, I worked really hard and all the things and all the sacrifices made to hit that point, but I was very full of myself. God wasn't in the picture. I was so like self-made, or I thought self-made in a way, and so I think a lot of high ego comes with a low self-worth. So the ego kind of balances that out, where it's fake self-worth in a way. And so I would say I had a lot of that going on. And, it's laughable, but, I was getting messages to say like health messages. I was getting these little messages, but Christina was going to do it Christina's way and keep doing these things. So, I mean, God had to come out.
What kind of messages were you getting? Like what kind of symptoms were you experiencing?
Yeah, I'd have little, there's a lot of little health things going on. Like I had this dental work and my gums weren't healing. I was having some digestive issues. I was, in my late 30s or something. I got a colonoscopy because some things weren't working. And I wasn't thinking, I'm just like, traditional medicine, doing the things. And, they say I'm fine. So I keep going. So there's just these little bitty things were starting to break down. But I was a marathon runner at the same time. And the marathon mentality is just keep running.
Yeah.
Just cross the finish line, pain, what is it? Mind over matter. And, you can push yourself through anything. But so, coming off that experience, that it's just like I had to be taken out by a 2x4 because I wasn't paying attention. And I think, we all get our messages. We're so connected and, we're so loved. And, but I know for me, it's like I just had everything in my hands, I thought. So I wasn't listening. And so I got a big wake up call. And within 48 hours of that moment where I said I made it, I was on my bed, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My hair started falling out. I dropped weight. I was skin and bones. I mean, my whole body was just
how long were you in this state? Because this is, hair falling out and skin and bones. That doesn't happen overnight. It takes, so how long were you in bed? And
what was interesting about this, I don't know if it's relevant to anybody else, but I looked fine. Before that moment happened where I just had a click in my brain and a little mini stroke. And that was just the first domino that took me down all the way. Stress stroke, by the way. TIA. And that was kind of what happened, this moment in my brain when that 48 hours after that. But before that, I ran a marathon 3 days before that moment. I looked healthy. I thought it kind of was, even though reflecting, I was having all these flags I wasn't paying attention to. But within 30 days, I just started deteriorating so fast. And with 6 months, I was, had been in Auschwitz and nobody could figure out what was wrong. And it was, as you can imagine, it was really scary. And, and it wasn't, what happened to me was from the physical standpoint, it was terrifying because we couldn't figure out what was wrong. And even regular doctors were saying nothing's wrong. It's look at me, seriously, something's going on. But there was a physical piece that was scary, but then there's the mental, emotional piece that now what I had to do, I had to deal with all that stuff that was surfacing that I'd never dealt with, that I'd just been pushing down, and all of that came out. So now I am not only scared physically, but psychologically and emotionally, I'm feeling regret, shame, remorse, fear. I'm terrified. I'm not good enough. I've lost my business. I've lost who I am. I'm nobody important anymore. Nobody's ever going to care. It was just all at once. And
so at that point, Christina, how did your faith come into play? Before and then during your illness?
Yeah. So that took a while. It's probably 9 months of Christina trying to duke it out and trying hard and just holding on, if metaphors I'm holding on for dear life and my fingernails are ripping off as I'm holding myself, trying to hold on to whatever I had left and just force and all that, kind of stuff that kind of probably helped me be successful at a certain level, but I was still using that. And I just remember the moment where I had nothing left. I was done. And it was a moment where I just let go and I surrendered. And I prayed for a miracle. I prayed for a miracle and said, I need help and I surrender and I can't do this anymore. And if I'm meant to stay around, I need your help and come in and I'll do whatever you say. I'll do whatever you tell me. And I just let go. And I think I gave you guys a metaphor. I remember the moment I was in the metaphor is I was in total darkness, and darkness means my body was dying. I was psychologically just in complete existential despair and darkness. And I never considered suicide. Like suicide wasn't a thought for me, but what was a thought for me is I understood why people committed suicide. Like it gave me empathy there, because my old hard self is like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, suicide. That's like, who would ever consider that? Like but now it's like, oh, if people are trapped here forever and they think they will never get out, you want out. So I understood it, but I mean, I reached that point where I understood it, which before I couldn't even relate to it. So that created a whole new open heart space and empathy where I didn't have a lot of empathy before.
Wow.
So it was, at that moment, but dark, dark, dark. And the day that I just surrendered and asked for a miracle and just got to my knees and prayed and say, I'm over myself, I saw this little pinpoint of light, like the size of a needle, the head of a needle, just this little pinpoint of light. But it's like God was talking to me saying, I'm here. I'm the light on the other side of this darkness. And I've got you, and we can do this together. Wow. And that's all I needed was that little pinpoint. And over time, just kind of going through this, and the light just got expanding until one day I woke up and it's like, oh my God, all the darkness is gone. But it was that moment of complete surrender.
Wow, that is
so powerful.
Powerful. And so indicative too of who God really is, the God of love, right? He made you because he loves you. He had a purpose for you. He knew what you were putting yourself through, and all he could do because of your strength of will and ego.
I was going to say stubbornness,
stubbornness,
which I recognize.
It's just wait on dear precious Christina to reach the end of her rope.
Yeah.
Then she'll call out to me.
Oh, the mercy.
And the beauty is that, all it took was that one whisper of a prayer. Help me, God. And how many times people just don't realize how willing God will rush in to show himself. Even though he started that little pinprick of light, it was enough to give you an appetite for more.
And to overtake the darkness.
And a desire to let it go and to trust him. And look at what he's been doing in your life since then. I mean, I think it's very, very powerful. But why do you suppose it's so hard for all of us to let go? We're drivers, we're achievers, we want to accomplish things.
Not everyone are. We're not all drivers.
That's true.
Like, there's some people listening. They're like, "That's you and Wendy, but Christina, but not me."
I think a lot of people got to get to that place of surrender. Why in the world? Why is it so hard? Just like, why do we need that kind of pressure to surrender? Why can't we just surrender without, the chaos and the craziness? I don't know.
I would answer that question. Yeah. It's like, I mean, again, in reflecting, I was getting messages, but I just wasn't paying attention, and I, because I wasn't connected. Now I'm connected, so I pay attention to the messages. I hear them. In fact, I welcome to receive them, and I want them. I look for them. It's like, please talk to me. Tell me what to do. What do you want me to do? What do you need me to do? And it's just surrendering over to that place. And it's just so much better. Like, I don't have to have an answer.
Yeah, so much better.
If that's the bottom line. It is better than what you think, because you're hanging on to things thinking you're in control. Let it go and see what happens. Now, I'm guessing that there is a deep correlation between your drive for making money and your health issues. Is that right? And if that be the case, why do people not notice how the constant drive to make more and more money eventually is going to affect their health? I mean, they go hand in hand.
I think it's just the messaging we receive culturally. One, it's kind of the drive, like everything we've talked about. When we think money makes us more worthy in the world, and we're driven to make more money. And especially, this is applicable to everyone, but especially for those that are entrepreneurs, there's this entrepreneurial code that, you work hard and you
work hard, play hard.
Yeah, you work hard, you sacrifice so much, and business is hard, as we all know. So, I put myself I was the entrepreneurial poster child, to start, the self-made poster child, start with nothing and you build all these things. But it's kind of the subconscious messaging. When you get there, life will be great. So if you reach this pinnacle of, say, business, career and or financial success. When you get there, then the rest of your life you can pay attention to. Then you can fix your marriage. Then you worry about your health. Not that we consciously think that, but it's kind of the subconscious belief. So I think there's that there mentality that I need to get there as fast as possible and do whatever it takes without considering the consequences of that. And then for me, in the terms of money, since, part of my lesson learned and the reason why it really became, the catalyst for what I do now is to understand in financial terms, which I understand really well, my body is my number one asset.
Yes.
Because what happened when my body broke? My business broke. My family broke. Right. Everything started breaking. And it's like, oh my goodness, that wasn't in the entrepreneurial handbook. If you lose your health. And then I had to use all my wealth to get my health back. And, then it's like starting over. So what's the point of losing my health in the process to build all this, material and financial and business success, and then have to start over again? Like that defeats the purpose.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Krisstina, because whenever I'm talking to potential patients, a lot of times they'll say, well, once I get the remodel done on the house, then I'll take care of my health. Or once I get so-and-so through college, then I'll take care of my health. And so it's interesting. So even if they're not at the pinnacle of their success financially, they're still in that mindset, right? Like they're not understanding that your health is your true wealth. And I know you and I talk about that a lot, that's a powerful thing. And so the lesson that you learned is that, your health is your number one asset. And so, for those that are listening, that are kind of maybe getting a check in their spirit about that, what would you say to them? Like, ready, set, go. Like if you're even considering or needing some health assistance, why wait, kind of a thing? Or what would you say to them, to get them out of their stuck mindset?
I think first of all, it's just, we have to get to the place, and this can even go back to worthiness too, is that when we love ourselves, we really want to take care of this vessel, this physical vessel, this body that we get to, experience life through. But we really have to love ourselves and value ourselves to do that, and love and value our body, and I mean, talk about God's miracle in the form of our body and our body's natural desire to want to heal itself. And if we could get out of our body's way, it's true miracle how this thing works. And it's so sophisticated and intelligent. It's God's intelligence, far beyond our intelligence to even know how to operate, fix this thing. But I think it starts there. It's to get to a place of I love myself so much. I love myself as a mother, that I want to be a healthy mother to my kids and be able to have the energy and vitality and all the things. And I love myself as a wife, and I want to be able to have energy and vitality and all the things there. And I love myself as a contributor to the world and how I can help other people when I'm healthy and well. And I love myself for me and God's creation and my, just the love of being and experiencing life. So it goes really
back to worthiness and love. Yeah.
And when we love ourselves, we want to take care of our body.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that desire there first. Everything starts with desire. The second piece, where I bump into it all the time, and Wendy, you probably do too, then here comes the money piece.
Right.
Well, hell, now my body has these issues and it's expensive to fix the thing. I don't want to spend the money on me. And then you have to get to the point of, what's more important? Is there anything more important than investing in your health?
No.
And there's two types of investing. There's investing up front so that you don't, have problems later on. So we're investing, maybe spend a little bit more money on organic food and making sure maybe we have a health coach and that we're doing all the things to mitigate or to maybe slow down any type of degeneration that lifestyle does. But then for most of us, when we're hitting middle age, then our bodies are breaking. And so you hit middle age and all of a sudden there's all these things that are happening and we're experiencing these symptoms. I'm speaking to the choir. So,
we all know.
But now it's oh, I have all these symptoms. I'm just tired all the time. I have no energy. I have these aches and pains. I'm moody. I'm whatever these symptoms are. I don't feel normal. And now we finally go to Wendy and get some work done, get some labs and testing. And it's like, oh, we've got all these things wrong with this because it's been 10, 20, 30 years of our body slowly breaking down because we've not been investing at it. We've just been using it and not treating it well because bad health doesn't happen overnight. It happens over years.
Same with bad money. That's why they go together.
So now it's all of a sudden like, okay, it's going to cost me $10,000, $20,000 to fix these issues. It's like $10,000 or $20,000 to invest in my body. That's not covered by insurance. So now it's just, it goes on and we don't do it. But again, it's like, we have to say, I want to invest in me. I want to be healthy no matter what the price tag is. And this is where it starts because I cannot make more money. I can't enjoy my life. I can't be here a long time if I don't make that investment. And there's no more important financial investment than my health investment. This can allow me to do all these things later on. So it's just getting to that place. And then, financially, it's like, all right, do I want a new car or do I want to invest in my health? Do I want Netflix and do I want all these other things or do I want to invest in my health? And then it's pretty easy once we just look at the trade-offs and say, my health is more important than these other things. It's very rare that people can't find the money to invest in themselves to get their health back. But again, it all starts with the value system.
That's it. That
is such good perspective. You remind me of what my dad used to say years ago, son, use your common sense. And I'm thinking about what you're saying is really, it's common sense. It's hard to do because I think that the culture has us so brainwashed in all the wrong ways. But the reality is we have relationships. We have relationships with people. We have relationships with ourselves, hopefully relationship with God. But I think people underestimate the reality of a relationship with money and what some of the outcomes are based on what that relationship is like, including health that can go south. So I just love your perspective on things, Krisstina. And you're sort of like the voice calling out from the wilderness to help people sort of wake up to the reality of how these things play into everyday life and what a healthy relationship with money is all about. So cannot thank you enough for the work that you're doing. And you were at that pinnacle of success, quote, if you will, in the real estate world. You've gone through a couple of remakes, but you're so much wiser now because of you.
That's her last name, Wise.
I know. Yeah. It's just like not a coincidence. Hello. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And we're going to put in the show notes where people can find you and how they can come to you for additional help and coaching and perspective and all the good things that you offer.
Definitely. Yeah. We thank you. We appreciate you, Krisstina. I just love you dearly like a sister, and I love every chance that we get to see you in person. So hopefully we'll get to see you again soon. But we want to wrap this up with just a fun question, right, Todd?
Yeah.
Because we like to do that.
Yeah. Like
I did this before on my podcast. Maybe we'll do a different one.
All right. Pick a question.
I'll do a different one.
Right.
What would be one word or phrase that just kind of sums up the entirety of who you are in this stage of the game?
Oh my gosh, like give me an easier one.
What's
your favorite color?
No. What's the first thing that comes to mind when when you're summarizing who Krisstina Wise is? All right. So like what do you want to be known for?
One thing I what comes to mind when you ask that question, I just want to be an example of what's possible. That I could tell story after story and kind of comeback after comeback and of what's possible. And that really just getting out of the rat race, getting out of that situation where you care so much about what other people think. Just a quick little story, with one of my students, we kind of what you're talking about is that she was having some health concerns and it was probably going to cost, I don't know, somewhere between $15,000, $20,000 for her to do all the work she's going to do to get her health back based on, what she was told. And then her husband wanted to buy a Tesla and they were going to put the $20,000 on the Tesla and they wanted to drive the Tesla. And it was a complete family episode because the Tesla went out. I think that, we have health and wellness of the family, but the Tesla was more important when they had to make the choice. And it's just, I think it's an example to look at that. Do we really need a Tesla? Like, why do we need a $100,000 Tesla?
Well, real quick, and I wonder if that was a mutual decision, because if it was his decision, imagine how she would feel as the wife. Like, okay, I'm not worthy enough or valued enough. I mean, interesting, right?
It really is. And I didn't go into it that far, but that was where it played out. But it's just, I like to use that example of where are we making those types of decisions? Yeah. Because if we put ourselves in that desert island, I think, and nobody was judging us by the car we drove, we probably wouldn't care so much about the Tesla. We might make, if we want an electric car, there might be different ones to choose from that come with a different price tag than this one. So anyway, part of that is, like I said, just to be an example of true health and happiness, what I call a counterbalanced life. Anything's possible. And it's just when we get out of the rat race and we really get to this place of just core happiness, and core happiness is not the money. I'm the money person. So I love money. I love making money. I love having money. I love spending money, but it's not about the money. It's about the life. In life, there's two pieces of life that really make life meaningful. One is our health. We've just talked about my story and your story and everybody else's story. When we lose our health, the quality of life goes down regardless of how much money you make. And then our relationships. And we sacrifice our health and we sacrifice our relationships to make money, and it's reverse order. So my message is like, no, let's make our values around God, around our relationships and who we love and who loves us, that they're good enough, we're good enough, and make our health a priority, our family priority, and then just figure out how much money is enough to make sure that we can take care of that, and then make money fun.
That's perfect. I love it. Make money fun. I like that. All right, Krisstina, you're awesome. God bless you. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, Krisstina.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Your Biggest Breakthrough. That was awesome with Krisstina Wise.
She's a very, very wise woman, as her last name indicates.
Yes,
but her life experience is really profound. You can learn a lot from her.
Yes. And so you can too. If you go to wisemoneymethod.com, check out what she has to offer there. And she even has a 2-minute financial IQ quiz. And take that, check out your score, and it'll determine kind of your relationship with money. I think you'll find it very interesting. She also has another website called wealthy dot life, I think, but we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, good.
But that was so fun. So thanks for tuning in, and we hope you'll share this episode with others. And if you're looking for some coaching yourself, whether it's health and wellness coaching or faith, family, fitness, finance, go to Todd's website.
Yes, toddisner.com.
Yes.
And you get yourself a free book there.
There you
and
go.
Also sign up for a course that we've just launched, and a special coaching group. So would love to see you in there.
Yeah. And you can go to my website if you're looking for some health coaching at wendypet.com. And we can have a little conversation, see if it's a good fit, but would love to talk with you and get you into a healthy space. So as you heard from Krisstina, your health is your true wealth. I don't know if she said that exactly, but that's what I'm saying.
And if you think of anybody that you feel might benefit from what has been shared on today's episode, please share that. Just send them the link, or just get in touch with them however you want to get in touch. And by the way, if you haven't yet given us a thumbs up, rated this.
I don't think they do that thumbs up thing. I think it's
that's Facebook.
I think it's subscribe.
I know.
I think let's leave a rating.
You have to
and a
do, but
review.
there's a like now thing that you have to hit on Facebook. Man.
You got to do. Please do it. We appreciate it. But writing a review actually helps the algorithm, so to speak, and it'll take us to the take us to a top area for people to find our podcast. So if you enjoy this show, please help us by spreading the word. All right. Be blessed, and we'll catch you next time in Your Biggest Breakthrough. Head on over to yourbiggestbreakthrough.com, where you'll find some free resources and information, and a place where you can comment, and we would love to dialogue with you there. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.